We're going to take a look at 1-2 for Work Together and On Your Own. And when you go ahead and launch this up, you're going to see that Work Together 1-2 is 4 points and On Your Own is 5. And these are practice assignments. So let's take a look at Work Together 1-2. While it's loading, you will again notice on the right-hand side we have this option right here to increase or decrease your font size. So if you needed to make it a little bit smaller to fit things on your screen, you may do that, or a little bit larger to make it easier to read. Either one is fine, but you have that button. You also will find the directions right here, so I'm going to go ahead and launch those directions. And the directions for Work Together 1-2 reads, write the answers to the following problems below, and I'm going to guide you through the following example. For each transaction, place a plus in the appropriate column if the classification is increased, place a minus in the appropriate column if the classification is decreased. And then there are 4 transactions there. So I need the transactions, but what is kind of confusing is they said the word classification. Assets, liabilities, and owner's equity are considered classifications. What I did on the board with you previous to this, cash, supplies, Mrs. Grassel Capital, those are considered accounts. Every account can only have one classification. Okay, so that's what they're referring to when they say classification here. So what we need to do is reread each transaction. And transaction number 1 says bought supplies on an account. Do you see where it says that? Now, one of the things I would suggest that you do is you're going to take your screens and you're going to split them. So that way on the one side would be your directions and the other side would actually be there. And that way you don't have to go back and forth. It doesn't work well for me for demoing up here, so I just have my instructions on the left-hand side. The easiest way for you to split your screen is you're going to minimize right here so it doesn't take up your full screen, and then you would physically click and drag over here to the side and it would take up half of your screen. And then you would do exactly the same thing with the other one. You would click and drag to this point of your screen. It won't snap to on mine because I have split windows, but then you would just have both of your information here. I always have to adjust like this. Okay? But when I teach, I just leave it full screen so it's easier for you to see. So for transaction number 1, bought supplies on an account. We're doing double entry accounting, so we know we have to affect 2 accounts. Supplies and on an account. Right? So the first one we hear is supplies. Okay. It's not owner's equity. Can we agree on that? The next question we have to ask ourselves, supplies. Do we own it and does it have value? That means it is an asset. Okay. Do we have more supplies or less supplies? More. So supplies, which is an asset, is going to go up with a plus. A plus. On an account. If things are on an account, what does that mean? We are going to owe them. So when we owe somebody, it is a liability because it goes back to our definition of our accounting equation. So liabilities is going to be minus. So here, transaction number 1, we see that an asset's going up. Good Lord, I just did that wrong. Do we owe that on an account more money or less money? More, so it's got to go up. I apologize. Having a hard time typing a plus sign. On this transaction, we're going to have an asset increase and a liability increase. So we owe that company more money. Number 2, receive cash from owner as an investment. What's the first transaction we see in there? Cash. Is cash an asset, liability, or owner's equity? It is an asset. We own it and it has value. Do we have more cash or less cash? What do you think, Philip? Do we have more cash or less cash? So therefore, we need to have cash go up. The other part of the transaction, from owner. Kind of gives you that right in there, doesn't it? From owner. So owner's equity is going to be affected. Is the value of the business going up or down? Up. So therefore, owner's equity is going to increase. Transaction number 3. Paid cash for insurance. Paid cash. Ooh, we've done cash before. Cash is what? Asset, liability, or owner's equity? Asset. Do we have more cash or less cash? Less. Insurance. Is insurance an asset, liability, or owner's equity? Prepaid, right? Insurance. So we own it. So do we have more insurance or less insurance? More. So I have an asset going up and I have an asset going down. So therefore, I'm going to have to do a plus and a minus. When I go and increase, notice it'll have an option for an increase, comma, minus. Before it came up as red, so that was just the problem is I just needed to choose from the drop-down list an increase and a decrease. The last transaction that we're going to do together today is going to be paid cash on an account. Paid cash. Cash, we've talked about that a lot, haven't we? And cash is what type of an account? Asset, liability, or owner's equity? Asset. Do we have more cash or less cash, Marissa? Less. So cash has to go down. The other part, on an account. On an account is a liability, right? So the question you ask yourself on a liability is, do we owe them more or less because of this transaction? Less. So therefore, a liability is going to go down. This is a work together. This is a practice assignment, so it's not graded. So you have an option right here to check answer. Yippee! I got it perfect. It's always good to know, right? So what you will want to do right now is you're going to go ahead and click on Save and Continue. And it's going to open up number 2 question for this assignment, which is going to be the on your own. Go ahead and try that on your own. Very sophisticated. I want to talk about the other assignment that I want you to look at. So if you're still finishing up the work together and on your own, just spin around so you can see this. What we have here is application 1-2. And what I don't like about application 1-2 is it's so completely different than our work together and on your own. It's not like you can look at it and say, oh yeah, I get it, just plus and minus, but it's graded. Basically, what you have here on your application problem is very similar to what I did on the board. Would you agree? Okay, so what I see is I have right here BEG-BAL, which stands for beginning balance. So it's saying before anything happened, the balance to all of these accounts is 0, which is why in the board, after I introduced the account, I went back up and put zeros on there for you. So for all of these accounts that we're using, cash, supplies, prepaid insurance, accounts payable 5-star, accounts payable Riverland, and Calvin Parish Capital, they start with 0. Then in the instructions, they go through, they give you the transaction. So what I want to do right now is I want to take a little bit of time looking at the directions. I know the bell's going to ring a little bit, but I have time to teach. What I don't like about the directions right now is the first thing that you do is you see this and you start doing the transactions and you miss the directions. The directions are actually right here in the bottom. And instruction letter A says, analyze a transaction to determine in the accounting equation which ones are affected, which is what I ask you in double entry accounting. What 2 accounts are being affected? You know it's always going to be at least 2. Okay. Then part B is going to be write the amount of the appropriate column using a plus or a minus, which is the second question I ask you. I ask you, okay, you're affecting cash. Do you have more cash or less cash? And anytime you're writing a transaction, you have to write a plus or a minus next to the value. The third thing that you have to do is you have to calculate a new balance for it, which is why I always went down in a new color and wrote the balance for what was going on. And then letter D, before going on to the next transaction, make sure you determine the accounting equation is still in balance. So transaction number 1 was done for you, receive cash from owner as an investment. So when I look here, transaction number 1, do you see number 1, number 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7? Transaction number 1 was done for you. Notice, only 2 accounts are affected on the transaction lines. There's a plus on cash being received and a plus on Calvin Parish Capital. Do I need to put something in the rest of these? No, only 2 accounts are going to be affected. So on these numbered lines, only 2 accounts will be affected. When you take a look at new balance, you have to have something for every one. Does that make sense? So I wanted to spend a little time today talking about the assignment. You will have some work time tomorrow in class at the start to work on it because you are going to have some questions on that. Does that make sense? But I wanted you to understand how to fill it out. And also the fact that if you start at the top of the directions, you're going to miss actually the instructions because you're going to start doing before you read what it tells you to do. I hope you guys have a great lunch today. When the bell rings. When the bell rings. And